Hi, I'm Jenny from Good, Bad, and Fab. I am a fashion lawyer by day and a fashion blogger by night. And I've been actually getting a lot of emails and questions about what exactly is a fashion lawyer. I think people are kind of intrigued by the idea of having a very straight-laced corporate job, but then being able to combine that with the fun and creativeness that is fashion. So I'm here to kind of shed some light on what I do as a fashion lawyer and what the industry kind of entails. There are basically two ways you can be a fashion lawyer. You can either work in-house at a law firm and represent fashion clients, or you can work as in-house counsel for a fashion company. I worked as in-house counsel for a fashion company, so I went with option number two. As someone who worked in-house at a fashion company, my day-to-day responsibilities kind of fell into, I would say, three different categories. The first is intellectual property. Intellectual property is trademarks, copyrights, patents in some cases. And what that means is fashion designers, when they come up with an artwork, a design, they can get them protected legally by having them registered as copyrights. So I did a lot of the copyright registrations for the fashion company that I was working at. Trademarks are a little bit more different. You can not trademark ideas, but you can trademark labels, names. For instance, Gucci. The name Gucci is a trademark of the company, and it is basically a symbol of that business. And so I also register trademarks for my company as well. The subcategory of intellectual property is also enforcement of those intellectual property rights. As you know, counterfeiting is huge in the fashion industry. I mean, you walk down Santee Alley in LA, or you're on Canal Street in New York, and you see knockoffs of anything and everything. And so my job as a fashion lawyer was to coordinate with law enforcement officers to make sure that we are protecting our intellectual property and that infringers are getting their just desserts in court or elsewhere. Not elsewhere as in we were go after them, beat them down or anything, but there are definitely different ways you can enforce your intellectual property. So that's kind of the first prong of what I do as a fashion lawyer. The second part of what I do as a fashion lawyer is drafting contracts. Lots of reading, lots of writing, and lots of negotiating. With fashion, as with any other industry, it's a business. And in businesses, you need to make sure that you're well protected and that your interests are well protected. You can't just, hey, let's collaborate on something and go ahead and do it and not think about all the what ifs. And so as an attorney, what I do is I step in and kind of take care of the boring part. So if, let's say, Kanye West and H&M decide they want to do a collaboration together, they would get to do all the fun design creative things, and then I would step in and write probably a 20-page contract outlining all the terms and details of that deal, as well as accounting for contingencies. What if Kanye West goes crazy on stage and decides to rip his H&M shirt to shreds? That could not happen, and if that were to happen, it would give us a way to get out of that contract. So things like that, all the minute little details that people might not think about, I kind of had to account for that in the contracts. So that's the second part of what I do as a fashion lawyer. The last part of fashion law, working in-house, is a little bit more HR related. It's dealing with day-to-day issues that come up in terms of employment problems and issues. So a lot of employment law related issues, making sure that we are complying with all the federal and state employment acts, labor laws, and things along those lines. That's kind of what I do as a fashion lawyer working in-house at a fashion company. Now, as I mentioned before, there are fashion lawyers that work at law firms, and their jobs and responsibilities differ a little bit differently from mine. For instance, they might go to court and they might litigate a case on behalf of their fashion client. When you're working in-house, you don't really appear in court, you don't really litigate, and so whenever I come across an issue that may need to go to the litigation stage, I outsource that to our outside counsel. So there you go. That's kind of a general overview of what I do as a fashion lawyer and kind of the practice of fashion law. If you have any additional questions or comments, please feel free to email me. Bye.